on him.
Where's my...
Welcome back to the show floor.
The Drake Vulture enjoys a unique place in the galaxy as one of the only widely available vehicles for space salvage on the market today. With strong revenue-earning potential for pilots and much greater flexibility than the larger Reclaimer from Aegis, the Vulture uses its popular twin-arm shape to excel at both hull scraping and structural salvage, generating up to 25 SCU of recycled material composite in its buffer and cargo grids combined, whose current market value contends with that of popular commodity Quantanium, but without the associated dangers included with traditional mining. Ultimately, the Drake Vulture remains a satisfying and straightforward option for those looking to fund their further adventures in the verse, and can always be found on the IAE show floor for those interested in learning more.
Welcome back to the IAE show. On today's episode, we explore mastering flight with Rich Tyrer, John Crewe and Jared Huckabee. It's Thanksgiving on Earth, so we give thanks to the best ship manufacturer in the verse, Drake. I said it and I meant it. Nobody owns me. It's the IAE show and it starts right now.
Okay, we're back. Part 3, final part of our conversation about life of spaceships and Star Citizen, and it's time to address the Idris in the room here, master modes. We'd been talking about master modes for quite some time. We've been building it up as the big savior of the spaceship combat experience. It released to mixed reviews at times. You know, some people are for it, some people are less than for it. We'll just say that kindly. I want to talk about what our plan is, what our vision is. Where are we going with this? What is the plan moving forward with master modes? And I'm just gonna take off and leave you two here. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Right. I think the big thing around master modes is that it's never was designed to be a static piece of development. We always wanted to make sure that we were adding in new systems as they came along that then influenced those design decisions that we made at the time. And I think two big pieces of feature work that we're going to be bringing to Star Citizen that's going to have a drastic change on how we implement master modes is going to be crafting and quantum boost. So right now with master modes itself, we have obviously the two master modes, SCM and NAV. A big thing is that we're going to actually be demoting or converting those modes from master modes to operator modes. What that inherently means is that we're still going to have a mode that is dedicated to fighting and having combat. There is going to be a mode that's dedicated to your quantum. But we're going to be removing some of the fail-safe restrictions, yes, that had when you're switching between these modes. We're going to be moving towards one cohesive speed between all operator modes. That speed is going to be more akin to what you'd imagine SCM speeds are now, but there's two big, huge caveats that come into that. First off is crafting. So crafting will allow you to upgrade your ship and to tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want to have combat at higher speeds, if you have a tier 5 ship and you have the best thrusters and you've specialized, you've bought an interceptor ship, that will be more applicable to those types of ships. So that gives people options to choose, like I want to have this type of gameplay versus this type of gameplay. Having that cohesive, unified speed, the one thing that we really need to address is this kind of like nav flight mode that is kind of, it sits in this very odd position in terms of you get out of an LZ and you're flying up to the space station, in atmosphere your speed is really closer to SCM speeds anyway. You're not flying at 1,000 meters a second. You can pick up start a bounty hunter mission now, be sent to another planet, and then the closest quantum point to that POI might be 500 kilometers away. And that means that, as we add more dense POIs, that's going to only exacerbate this situation because we can't have quantum markers everywhere. And when we start to add more space exploration and more missions towards the different guilds that we're operating on, where you're going to having to go into deep space and go into these large distances, you don't want to be in a position where that's taking such a huge amount of time. We want you to be spending more time doing the mission than flying there. This is where Quantum Boost comes in. Now, the way that Quantum Boost works is it connects your flight speeds to your quantum travel. So quantum travel is for flying millions of kilometers away when you have a specific quantum marker that you're flying towards. Then you've got your flight speeds, which should be, say sub 20 kilometers, where you're flying around, exploring on the planet, or fighting at a POI, or doing a bounty hunting. But anywhere above that, we want to kind of accelerate that process of that navigation. And Quantum Boost goes all the way up to your top speed of SCM, or top speed of our flight mode, your current nav mode, all the way up to essentially a tenth of quantum travel speed. You have this spectrum of speeds that allow you to navigate the large spaces in our game, but also then still stay true to some of the intentions that we delivered with master modes.
Master modes we talked a lot about, and the combat side broadly staying the same. The nav side that was the limiting factor, we often said, like, it's too fast, but not fast enough. The amount of times we watch new players go into nav, go towards a station, and then we'd be sat there going, they've not stopped in time. So Quantum Boost was always supposed to be that bridge gap, and without it, we were left with this sort of nav mode that didn't quite do what we wanted. And it also, because it's quantum and it's creating a bubble around your ship, allows us less friction in the traversal, because you go in quantum, you come out of quantum, you don't have to apply all this G-force.
The rules of physics are different.
The rules of physics are different because you're not physically hurtling at that speed. You're wrapping a bubble of time and space around yourself. So you come out, you can stop dead. You're not having that expanse moment where you're all being ripped apart from the G-force. So you see that space station coming towards you, you stop, you stop.
The one limitation that we are retaining is the fact that you can't have your quantum drive enabled and also your shields. And ultimately, that's a binary decision. Operator modes will start off as the default configuration that we've set in terms of the controls, in terms of the MFDs and what you're casting onto your HUD, in terms of your resource network presets. But that doesn't stop you from then going in and customizing it. We're providing an initial, hey, this is what we think is a good default setting. But then it's up to the players then to customize what they want on their cast, what they want on the MFDs, and then they have options to them. And they shouldn't have this constant switching modes to gain access to certain operator modes. You know, we're removing some of that friction.
And through all of this, because that binary distinction is between modes, you have to be in this mode or this mode, and there's all these very strict rules between those modes, you keep your weapons through all this. So this now becomes a more tactical decision in combat. But if you need that sudden burst of speed, either to get away from something or to catch up to something, you make the choice. You sacrifice your shields, certainly, but you can still bring your weapons to bear and stuff, get there, and the second you're out.
And ultimately, that is underpinned by your resource network engineering. So if you're on a single-seater ship, that's obviously at the pilot's behest. But also if you're on a larger multi-crew ship, you can then use the engineering terminal to be able to have those presets available to you.
And through the use of crafting to improve your components and, of course, your presets, and Quantum Boost, rather, you can get up to speeds that are approaching the current nav speed and stuff like that. So we're not taking that speed away. We're defaulting everything to a speed that is closer to today's SCM. Yeah. And then giving the player choices in how and when they can get up to that speed without completely disabling everything.
I mean, ultimately, it allows us to keep the default. We're trying to move towards a balance across the game where you can start off easier and it gets harder. So we want the default to be open and compatible to lots of players, but then as you start to specialize and it becomes hard to master and you start to work in different avenues of different professions that you like, that's where you can start to customize your ship. And I think there's a key takeaway or a key point to also make is that if you don't want to craft, if you don't want to go down that route because you just want to shoot ships and be a combat pilot, or you just want to be a miner or a space trucker, there's nothing wrong with that. You can still gain access to this because player trading is going to be something that allows players to gain access to these components and ships without having to go through some of the grind that they have, and obviously they're now reaping the benefits of that. But you have lots of choice.
Obviously, there isn't one prototypical Star Citizen player. Developing a system that's going to please everybody is an impossible task. We can only work towards our goals and our vision for what we want this to be, and hope it applies to as many people as possible. What I like about this is that you can never go wrong with putting the choice in the player's hands. at any given situation, when you're going to want your speed, when you're going to want your shields. You'll always have your weapons from now on, stuff like this. Just put those choices in the player's hands and let them decide for themselves. It's one of those things unique about Star Citizen is that we get to develop this, and then we don't have to wonder. We can put it into players' hands and get that feedback immediately and then take it in. I think there's a real chance for this to be the spaceship experience we've been working towards this whole time.
I think the big thing to take away from all the things that we've discussed is that none of these things are designed or implemented in isolation. And where we're trying to go is like, you know, when we talk about combat that is, say, not as fast as it was in previous updates, hopefully people understand we're doing that not just because we don't like fast combat, it's because we want to give players options to gain fast combat or gain slower combat, depending on what choices they make with crafting or their purchases. Then it's on a scenario where, you know, capital warfare is, you know, you need to be able to use precision targeting, and that's why we developed that feature so that you can have good subcomponent targeting. And I think when you start to see some of this bigger picture come together, and you start to see all of these individual pieces connect, you might not agree with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. That's how we're trying to connect all these pieces together to create this experience that ultimately Chris is the one that is setting that vision, and we're trying to execute on that vision for Chris. And that is what we're trying to work towards, and hopefully people can start to see some of these pieces connect together and why some of these decisions have been made. And you know, and hopefully they enjoy it ultimately at the end of the day.
So Rich, John, thank you so much for taking the time to share this vision of Star Citizen's spaceship gameplay. I think there's no better place to do that than IAE, a celebration of all spacecraft and vehicles in Star Citizen. It's come to my attention that the last two parts, when I've attempted to move us on to our next topic, folks have been changing the channel. So I don't want you to do that here. Up next, I'm going to talk directly with John Crewe and explain to him my true vision for the spaceship Jalopy once and for all.
Change the channel.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! Are you a DIY security super fan? Have you seen every Garman Humble live stream and special? Well, you haven't seen this. It's gonna blow your mind. Sign up for all the casualties, catches, and kills. Too hot for open comms. Too intense. Too brutal. Too spicy for Spectrum.
When things get dicey, go extra spicy.
Subscribe now.
Welcome back to another episode of Quantum Questions, where we take a CIG developer, put them on the hot seat, and make them answer as many questions as they can in under 2 minutes. Joining us on the show this week, the happiest person at CIG, Mr. John Crewe. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, having a great day.
That's good to hear. Ben got 15 questions in 2 minutes. How many do you think you're gonna get?
Oh, let's go for 16.
All right, so let's put 2 minutes on the clock and begin. Who are you and what do you do?
My name's John Crewe, I'm the vehicle director at CIG.
You're in a desert walking along in the sand when all of a sudden you look down and you see a tortoise. It's crawling towards you. Why did you nerf the Corsair?
It was massively outperforming all other ships in the game. It had 40% of the kills overall just by itself, so it needed bringing down a touch. The current reduction in its efficiency is not going to be the final way. We want to do a bit more with it.
What's the drama with the Polaris torpedo tubes?
It's not clear that they actually rotate and feed from the bottom and skirt around the elevator shaft.
Is that what they really do?
That's what they do in the animation.
Where is my Crusader Starliner?
It's going to be after 1.0.
Will you ever make the Rock DS good?
Yes, so we want to enclose both players, whether they're going to be side by side or line astern, still to be decided.
Tell us what one of the ships from the tease at CitizenCon was.
It's a variant of one of the ones we teased last year.
Ooh. What can you tell us about Endeavour modules?
All still planned, but after 1.0.
Why do you hate Drake ships?
I don't hate Drake ships.
Well, why is Drake the best manufacturer?
Drake's a great manufacturer, rugged, industrial, and nicely priced.
And what's the best Drake ship?
The Cutter, obviously.
All right, so today is Drake Day. Why should everyone go get a Drake ship?
Can I ask you a question, Jared?
Sure.
Do you ever feel like you're a soulless marketing puppet?
What's the deal with the mule?
Mule's still waiting for a little feature to allow you to remotely disconnect items from pilot seat. This is the same thing we need for the prospector and the mole as well, to remotely detach the mining sacks.
What's the deal with that double-engine Hornet we saw in the Squadron playthrough?
That's a cool special little variant used by Squadron 42.
What's it called?
It's the F7X.
Ooh. Will that ever come to the persistent universe?
It might do.
What about the updated Vandal ships from Squadron?
They will as well, but most likely after Squadron ships.
Can you confirm that the Mirai Guardian is coming to Alpha 4.0?
Yes.
Tell us something you're not supposed to tell us.
Ironclad's in production right now.
Why would you make my jalopy? Oh, at a time.
Wait. A jalopy is a dilapidated ship or vehicle that's been left around for many, many years. It most likely does not fly. I hate this man.
This will be the day. I'll stand up and say, we need a ship without all that drip. A scrappy wreck, still covered in dreck, and one you can't buy that won't even fly. Jalopy.
He asks every day. I just say no way. When it's from him, the chances are slim. Truth be told, and I'll tell you why this is not
Jalopy is bold.
Who wants jalopy? Ugh.
I want jalopy. No one wants this thing but me.
Signing off.